What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Uncle Carlton, co-host of the Two Black Kings podcast. Xavier, what's up with you, man?
What's good, kings and queens? My name is Xavier Greer. I'm also the co-host of the Two Black Kings podcast. Thank you for joining us this week.
The Two Black Kings podcast seeks to inspire a generation to equip themselves with tools to navigate life. We will be discussing topics such as financial literacy, pop culture, and relationships from the perspective of two Black kings.
Here on the Two Black Kings podcast, we want to bring you different perspectives from some of the highest achievers within their fields. While the guests we have on the show do not reflect the ideas of the co-hosts nor the companies we work for, we believe in providing you with the knowledge, tools to take your life to the next level.
Before you do anything, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Send it out to at least 5 friends and follow us on Instagram at Two Black Kings.
All right, let's get into this week's episode.
What is up, guys? Back again for another week for the Two Black Kings. What's good, Xavier?
Man, not much. Trying to get my life in order, bro. It just feels like after the holidays, the worst thing about adulting is that everything costs something. Every single something is due, and I'm just like, so getting on top of that. This past weekend, I actually did some volunteer work for Vita. So I know last episode we talked about how I was doing like tax preparation, but I'm basically doing it for families that make under 60K. Like volunteer work for low or no cost tax preparation. So yeah, that's how I've been. How you been, bro?
Bro, I've been chilling, man. This weekend I didn't do no volunteer work, but I was in Houston, right up with some of my homeboys out there. Shout out to Brian, shout out to AJ. We went to camp. I don't know if you've ever been to camp before in Houston, but it was a whole vibe. Shout out to camp. They knew a promoter out there, so we got a section for the free ski. And they gave us a bottle too. And so we was right in the mix. There wasn't no cool artist there or anything, but it was a vibe. Like, it was lit, completely packed. And, just doing my thing, chopped it up with a couple of homegirls, did my thing. But what I will say is the girls in Houston are definitely choosing for Black men. That's what I like about places like...
They are the thickest women in America, bro. They have to be. That's
what I like about places like Memphis, New Orleans, Houston, because it almost feels like we're back at home, Xavier.
Man.
We from the Memphis culture, but we went to 2 PWI, so it's kind of like we're playing this game of who we are sometimes.
Bro.
Right in Houston, everything just felt super comfortable. The girls were choosing. They like Black men, obviously. So I don't know, it's the vibe, and I'll be down there a lot.
Houston hotties, that's where Beyonce from. Like, but yeah, so as we get started off with the Kings of the Week. So first of all, we just want to acknowledge we're actually recording this on MLK Day. So it would be remiss if we excluded Dr. King from our Kings of the Week. And then also this past week was the Golden Globes. So Abbott Elementary, I don't know if you watched that, but it's a really cool show just about like what it's like in a teacher's life in Philadelphia, being in low income areas. So really love that show. So yeah, shout out to them, to the Golden Globe winners. And then Book of the Week is actually brought to you by...
Yeah, it's actually brought to you by Uncle Carlton. So I do this often. I listen to audiobooks, but on my way to Dallas and Houston this weekend, I listened to The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. And it was an insanely helpful book. And I kind of compare it to fundamentals. You're playing a sport. One of the most important things you could do is know how you do your fundamentals, whether it be basketball, track, football. These are the fundamentals to finance. And so really, let's just pretend life is a game. And you have a set amount of rules that you follow in order to progress to the next levels. This is exactly what that is. It's giving you the rules to the game of life in terms of finance. So the first rule was you need to pay yourself first. Xavier, I think I heard you mention that last podcast. You need to pay yourself 1/10 of whatever you make per month or per check. And so what that does is you can collect wealth like just by paying yourself. And you don't realize that you don't pay yourself until you look at your balance. You're like, damn, I paid this person, I paid this person, I paid this person. But
bro, back to that.
Or literally. And so 1/10 was to wealth, 2/10 is to your creditors, and then 7/10 is to your living expenses. And so if you do that for a long period of time, you can progress to the next level, which is then investing and making your money work for you. And then there's a whole nother set of rules that comes with that type of money. But the first thing and the most important thing from the book that I got is to remember to pay yourself, and that good money does not come fast. The faster you make money, the faster you're going to lose it. And so if you build it this way, you'll be able to appreciate it, and you won't fall into the trap of trying to keep up with the Joneses. Yeah. Another thing that George pointed out in this book is that when you start to pay yourself 1/10 of your income, and you now have less income to work with per month in terms of living expenses, that doesn't actually matter, because you're going to get used to the new expense, and you're not even going to remember the money that you paid yourself. Right. And I've been saving here and there, and I throw my money into some Northwestern Mutual accounts, and I literally, as soon as that money gets taken out of it, I forget that it was even, which I think is great, because I don't look at my Northwestern Mutual account every day. I probably look at it once a month. And so it's like money, okay, it's like another expense, but I'm really just paying myself. So I like that about
bro. And that's, I don't think people, they really underappreciate the law of compounding. So like once you're able to, it could be personally or financially, just getting better every day, saving $1, putting $5 away, like every paycheck period. It adds up. At the end of the day, when you find out you got $200, then you're like, all right, I can just buy a plane ticket anywhere. So yeah, law of compounding, that is essential.
For sure. So let's go ahead and hop into this. Questions from the view. I like this freaking segment that we used to do, questions from the viewers. So one of my good friends, not going to name any names, but they asked me, are there any cheat codes to paying off your house sooner? And I posed this question to Xavier and a couple other people. But Xavier, I wanted to get your thoughts on that before I get my thoughts on it.
Okay, so my whole thought on it was, first of all, there's no cheat codes to paying off a house other than the basics. And Rashad, it's funny because he texted me this question, and I told him, I was like, there's really no other way but putting more down or putting more in a month. Right. So if your rent or mortgage is $1,500, putting in $2,000 will actually help you pay it off a lot sooner. Probably cut $20,000 in interest already off your bank loan. And he was just like, bro, that's boring. That's boring advice. They won't get that shit. And it's just like, bro, it's literally simple. Like this real estate stuff, and like we try to make it complicated, but it's really, really simple. Other than getting like somebody to rent out, a room, there's really no like cheat codes to paying off something sooner. So
right. My advice would be, if you don't already know the basics, let's refresh ourselves on the basics. So usually when you get a house, you get a 15 or 30-year loan, and you're paying interest based on the money that you're getting up front from the bank. And so there's no prepayment penalties to any type of home loans, meaning you could pay off the loan at any time without paying extra money. In commercial, it's a little bit different, because there is a prepayment penalty. You might be liable for all the interest if you pay the money up front, but that doesn't happen in personal home loans. So for me, like Xavier said, the real thing is to just pay more money every month. And if you can get to that point, I call it a payment and a half. That extra money that you're putting down per month is actually just being applied towards principal. So you're paying less interest. For instance, if I'm paying, let's just say I just get a house and I have a $2,000 payment. When the loan first starts, the first couple of years, I think till you're 15, it changes. But you're going to be paying, 80% of that's going to be interest, and 20% of that is going to be like principal. And I'm just roughly making numbers. I have an amortization schedule, but that'd be boring to show you guys. But it switches to where, okay, now after a while, after you're 15, I'm paying more principal instead of interest, even though the payment's the same. It's being allocated to different sources. Yeah. And so if you pay more upfront, then you're going to be paying more of that principal, and therefore the loan's going to is going to be shorter. And so you're going to be paying less interest over time. And so That's what I always tell people, pay more per month. So, and I guess the hard part is, well, how do I pay more per month? Well, you just have to set up your budget in a way that allocates money for that type of expense. So, we just talked about the 1/10 pay yourself, the 2/10 pay your creditors, and the 7/10 of your living expenses. You might have to allocate some of that 7/10 living expense to your 2/10 paying your creditors.
Right.
And that just might be how you have to do it if you want to pay off your house early. And so I think that the cheat code, per se, even though there are no cheat codes, it's just to set up your budget correctly.
Yep, that's the cheat code. Get a budget, stick to it.
Pretty much.
That's right.
Pretty much.
All right, so now we got the topic of the week. So the topic of the week this week is adult relationships. We have had relationships since we were young. So how I wanted to start this section is for the new people that are just now seeing us or have just met us in the past 2 years, this is like their first episode they're hearing. Let's talk about how we first met and then first impressions. So I'll go first. So I want to say I met Rashad in 6th grade. It was either 5th or 6th grade is when he did slam.
Yo, it was for sure 6th grade.
Yeah. And when I tell you this nigga Rashad has not changed one bit, bro. No. As loud as he is now, this is what he was. He just had a smaller body, which made his head so much smaller.
Bro, they used to check me for my head so often.
And the funny part is, me and Rashad, I didn't get really cool with Rashad until Kamar. Kamar always had classes with Rashad and would like go out to different. Y'all would go to Jason's Deli, bro. Y'all love
that's
Jason's.
Exactly where we would go.
And so y'all became like really good friends. So I was like, all right, let's all three of us hang. And bro, we just had chemistry, like straight off bat. But there was one thing that this man Rashad did piss me off a lot about. Bro, we would talk to it was the Hutchinson women. That's what it was.
Oh God!
And when I never forget.
So to premise, Hutchinson, we went to an all boys high school. Hutchinson was our sister school.
And bro, when I tell you, me and Rashad would literally come in. We come into the lunchroom at like 8 a.m. in the morning, just like, bro, F you, why you text her that?
Yup. Mm-hmm.
Bro, so when I tell you we've been doing this for what? It's probably 15 plus years of friendship. Like, bro, it's ridiculous.
Bro, and it's been 15 great years of friendship. It's been super funny because my favorite memory, I'm not going to name no names, was when, well, it's not my favorite memory, but one that was funny was when we were just messing with these Hutchinson girls and we caught this man Xavier driving a Range Rover that was this girl's dad's. And we're two black men with two white
bro
driving a Range Rover that's not any of ours. So it's like it was definitely a buzzer.
Bro,
but you know it was fun,
start, bro.
Word.
But I want to say, like, when it comes to adult relationships, like, it's so important to surround yourself with like people that are going somewhere and people that are like willing to see you grow. Because that was one of the things that attracted me to Rashad and Kamar, is that like while we're not competing for each other, we're all excelling in whatever we're doing. Rashad was very athletically and really academically inclined. Kamar was just a whiz at all things academic.
Crazy.
And bro, and just everybody messed with me. So I became student council.
No, let me tell you about Xavier, bro. Like the reason why Xavier is one of my best friends, he's obviously academically inclined. Everybody at MUS was for the most part. But his ability to take a situation and make a good decision was far surpassed anybody that I saw in our entire class.
Where's your violin?
Yeah. No, because I remember. Okay, I'm gonna premise this. So this is just a backstory. So there was one time I was taking a Spanish test. And I didn't study for the Spanish test because I was doing, XYZ. I had other classes. I had track. This is our senior year, so I didn't really give a fuck anyways. But we were taking the Spanish test, and me and Xavier and Kamar sitting in free period in the library. I'm like, bro, I think what I'm gonna do is, I think I'm gonna tell Mr. Hernandez that I got a doctor's appointment. I think my dad will sign off on it, and I'm just not gonna take a test to this next free period. And so I went up to him. I said, look, I got a doctor's appointment. I can't take this test. Can I take it? XYZ later on. And he was like, sure. And Xavier was like, this is a terrible idea. You should not do this. It's not gonna work. Lo and behold, it didn't work, and I had to go to honor council.
Bro,
that's like the long
trying to
story.
tell this man.
I was just like, yeah, bro, I should just stop doing it. And it's decisions like that. Like, he would let me know, you probably shouldn't do this, you probably shouldn't do that. And I'd be like, after I would do it or wouldn't do it, I'd be like, you know what, I should probably just listen to Xavier. So that's like one of the bases why he's one of my best friends, because he provides some excellent value when it comes to a different perspective.
Yeah, and it's stuff like that. Like, I don't think we agreed a lot. Like, that was one of the things I messed with y'all about, is that we were always arguing about something,
bro.
And whether we had to call your dad into it or we called into it to give their opinion, but we would always like have these very like really good discord just about like, although we talked about girls and stuff, like we also talked about business and stuff. Exactly. But to bring it to the girls, how do you think your dating life has changed from high school to college and then college to now?
Okay, so from high school to college, I didn't really have a dating life. Like, I dated this girl that was in California or whatever, Destiny.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was more of a puppy dog relationship where I was, caked up on the phone all the time doing my thing. But to move to college, when I first got to college, since we were, an all boys school, I kind of went crazy my freshman year. But the environment of college was, it was honestly unrealistic now that I think about it, because you are literally living right next to other girls your age and very interested in you as a person. Mm-hmm. And so you could just go knock on the door and be like, hey, what's up? And that's like acceptable in college because everybody's trying to make friends, lifelong friends. And so for the longest, me and my roommates would just go around campus and just talk to women. That's all we would do. And on the track, this is why being in groups is so important when it comes to networking, because you were networking by default. You didn't have a choice but to look at the girls because you was training with them. And they were on the track, mostly beautiful young ladies. So those are already some great options to choose from because you were just by default around them. Right. Kind of moving on into the dating scene after college. It's like I said, there's no group. There's no really group. Like I find myself at the office with people that are older than me. And then I find myself, hooping with just dudes. But like sometimes we'll go out, but I see a lot of people kind of struggling to find a consistent group that they're with. And I think that's the best way to finesse is just to be around people by default. And so I think that's the biggest change from high school to college to adult life. There's not really any set group that you can join. And there are groups that you can join. You just have to go out and figure out which group.
And that's
really what it is. Exactly. Yeah. You can't just walk up to random adults and be like, oh, let's be friends. It doesn't work like that.
It's weirdo. I think
exactly
like an important fact that I really want, like the Kings listening, I want you to take in. And this is very essential when you want to get girls, when you want to start dating. Is very essential that you need these groups. A lot of people think that to get women, you have to have nothing but women surrounding you, and like that's all you talk to. Like most of the girls that wrong answer, bro.
Wrong answer.
All the girls that I started talking to came out of mutual friends. I think one of the most underappreciated things is who you surround yourself like in terms of like your male group. Sometimes those male, and like that's why it's so good to hang around with people like Rashad, people like Dion, people like Kamar, where it's just like those kind of guys have most likely, because they take care of themselves, they surround themselves with women that take care of themselves as well. Exactly. And that's where you want to find like your wife, the people that you really take seriously is within those small little groups. You're not gonna find them at the club. I'm sorry to say. I mean, but if that's
unless you're pulling up with them to the club, you're not gonna find them.
And like, I think if that's your thing, like if you love the club life, like go ahead, definitely do it. Just don't expect your wife to be, at the club. But as for me, and I think Rashad, we touched on it earlier, but an important thing to see our transition from high school to college is that we came from an all boy environment from 7th grade all the way up to 12th grade. So like that's 6 years of just 9 hours a day, really longer than that because we stayed up
really long. We was there all day,
forever. So we logged the hell of hours at that school. But moving from there to like co-ed classes, like going to parties and there's good. You just like
it was.
I personally felt my freshman year, I felt like a fat kid in a candy store.
Bro,
I was ready to go. I went crazy. That first 2 years of college, yeah, legendary. I love
and they was going for it too. That's the craziest part.
And everybody knew. Like if there was no secrets, like everybody was just out in the open.
And I was on a track team. You joined a fraternity, so it was even crazy.
Bro, once I joined my fraternity, it just skyrocketed. It was crazy.
And that's what we mean by. Let me go back to the point about a male crew. Yeah. I don't think people really get it. Like they don't really get it. You need high value male friends in order to be around high value people, high value women. High value women are always going to flock to the high value men. This is just a fact. Like they really don't have a choice if you think about it. And so what you really should be focused on is who you're hanging around as a man. If you're hanging around people that are always in the club, always spending their money, but they don't really have nothing to show for it, you need to get away from those people.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you're hanging around, high value men, like for instance, this weekend, I was with Bron and AJ, and I was just hanging out with them, and they had a section with 8 women that were looking for people.
Crazy.
So it's like I didn't have to do any work. All I had to do was know them.
Yeah.
And so this is my point. Like when you are around people that are like-minded, that are growing, women can't resist that, and you get women by default regardless.
Right.
So you just need to focus on who you hang around and who you're networking with in terms of for the Kings being a man, and you're going to be fine.
Yeah, and I think another part of this topic I want to touch upon is how sometimes there are some friends, even though you have longevity with them, sometimes they don't necessarily grow with you. But I think it's still essential to keep in contact and keep those connections. I'm a very proud proponent of we never burn bridges. Never burn bridges because you never know who you might meet later on in life. But I do understand that there are some points in life so right now, another thing I appreciate about you, Rashad, is like how we both got houses at the same time. Like it's things like that because you wouldn't understand if I was like, hey, bro, I really can't play the game tonight because I got to cut my yard. You understand exactly what I mean by that. It's just like
exactly what you
want to have. Then I got to go shower. All that stuff. So there's certain things. I still have friends now that are getting married. There are friends now that are having babies, and because of it, bro. When I tell you this past Christmas, like if it wasn't somebody getting married, it was somebody having a baby. I said, ain't no way. Keep it away from me. Keep it
away. Keep the baby. I mean, I'll tackle marriage at some point.
Yeah, at some point in time. But
really what I want you to answer, Xavier, is keep going. My bad.
I think it's essential to know that I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. Yeah, I'm ready for the question.
But I think the question has I think it has something to do with what you're going to say. I was going to ask you, what is the best way to network with men or just with adults at this point?
How I was able to do it. So I think it was difficult for us because we became real live adults during a pandemic. So we couldn't even go out, even though Texas was damn near open. But I couldn't go out to certain places that you would usually go to, meet different friends. So the first thing I did was establish a friend group that like to do what I do. So a couple hobbies that I like doing: working out, reading. And so I was like, I know I do one of those two things pretty much every day. How can I find a group of men that are doing pretty much the same thing? And then that's when I met. So this guy named Chuka Akpong. I'm actually wearing the shirt.
Yeah.
But he started a book club here in Dallas. And when I tell you that was one of the turning points of my life here in Dallas is that
if you're not reading, you're doing nothing.
Yeah, what are you doing? What are you doing right now? But yeah, I got connected with him with the book club, and then like from that book club, met like 5 other dudes that really were on the same wave as I like. I just hung out with them this past weekend, and it's not even on some book club stuff. It was just on some, bro, let's go hang. And like that's all I needed is establishing like, what do I like to do? How can I find other men or create a space? Because sometimes that's another part of it. Is sometimes you have to be that space. Sometimes you see that as an opportunity. If you're living in Memphis, if you're living in California, there's not really a space for Black men to read or Black men to work out. Sometimes it takes you to be that difference to create that space for more men, to get connected. So yeah, but I will say it's hard.
It's hard.
And then, so what I want to ask you, Rashad, is because one of the things I've been battling before that time, before I met the book club, was that period of loneliness where you're like by yourself, you really can't do anything, and you don't really know anybody in a new city, which is kind of what we're going through right now. So
So let me tackle that. So when I was in San Antonio last year, I was in a new city that I had never been to before. I had one friend and Robert, but he was still running professionally. So he was at Penn State kind of training while I was doing my tenure there in San Antonio. But he introduced me to Dion kind of like one of the first nights we were out there. And so what I did was I was like, Dion's hella cool. So, I kept hitting him up, kept hitting Anthony up because he introduced me to Anthony as well. And for a while, it was kind of just me, Dion, and Anthony. Then it kind of just turned into me and Dion. And I realized that me and Dion were on the kind of the same shit. We liked to hoop. We liked women. We liked bars. We liked football, basketball, video games, and then going out every once in a while. And so we just got real, and we really like going to the movies. We both had the Regal pass where we could see all the movies we wanted for free. And so what we just did was we just hung out with each other all the time. And he lived maybe like 20 minutes away. So there would be a lot of times where I'd just be sitting at the house alone, especially when I tore my Achilles and couldn't move for like 4 or 5 months. I was sitting at the house alone a lot. And so I would say one of the things that to help battle this quote unquote loneliness is to, and it's going to sound very weird, but it's to meditate. Because when you become at peace with yourself, you know who you are, and you actually listen to your own thoughts, then you start to accept yourself and find yourself entertaining. Like for me, when I started to meditate, which I still do pretty much every day, it was life-changing because you're on social media, you're on Twitter, you're on TikTok, you're on Snapchat, looking at other people's lives and other people's thoughts. And if you never take time to look at your own thoughts, then you'll be someone else instead of who you are. And you'll be able to be manipulated that way as well. And so once you learn who you are and what you can do for yourself, and this is going to sound very weird, but I honestly, when I'm alone, sometimes I just talk to myself because I have a different perspective in my head, whether it be sometimes it's Xavier's head in my head. Sometimes, most of the time, it's my dad's head in my head. Sometimes it's my mom's head. So I'll cycle through like, the people that I trust the most head in my head, and I just talk to them a lot of the times. And so it sounds insane, but I think more people do that than they would admit. I'm just don't care. And I'll admit that on the podcast. I don't care. And so I think that it's just becoming at peace with yourself. And then more importantly, finding things that you like to do while you're alone. For me, I love watching anime. I love playing video games. I love editing videos. I love reading books. I like word searches. I like cleaning up. There's so many things to do in a house that you should really never be bored. You could grass, you could go make improvements. You need to figure out what your hobbies are. And you can only do that through meditating and figure out who you are and what you like. And so the loneliness problem, I think, is solved when you know who you are, you know what you like, and you actually start to do those things. And that segues into my next point, which is what I asked you, Xavier. What's the best way to network as a man? It's through your hobbies. For me, I network through social media because, you have to have a social media presence because that's what everybody looks at and judges you for. But more importantly, I started going to the gym consistently because I always worked out and I was missing that in my life. So I started going to Lifetime because those, I've always gone to Lifetime, so I didn't feel like changing anything. And as I started going to the gym consistently, like last summer, I started to see the same people over and over again. And as I started to hoop, I started hooping versus the same people over and over again. Then we got each other's names, and then all of a sudden we're on teams, and I'm calling out, "Hey, Kevin, go to the corner," or "Hey, Ron, set me a pick." And like once you start to do that, you start to win consistently. Then they're like, "Okay, like you're cool. What's your Instagram? Blah blah blah. Let's go out sometime."
Bro.
And a lot of times I would stop at the front of Lifetime and talk to the hostess or the host, Eli and Anna, and they were super cool. They invited me out, and now we're cool just because of that. Like Eli is damn near one of my twins, and so like I just think doing something that you love consistently. People forget about this.
Consistently, bro.
You can't just go to the court once and say I did my due diligence and I didn't meet anybody. You have to go consistently over a month. Like you can't go into the gym, see a bad girl, and then go talk to her. You need to go to the gym for months first so she can feel who you are, and then you can approach her. So if you're not doing things consistently, your hobbies consistently, then you're never going to be able to network. And the next thing is just to step out of your comfort zone and actually talk to people. You'd be surprised how many people really want to be talked to. They just don't know how to do it. So you can just both not know how to do it, but just go up there and say something. It's it. It's literally it. It's not even hard. We're just scared of rejection that really won't even come.
Yes. Yeah. I think, and kings don't miss this. This is also how you pick up on the girls that you are looking to wife, bro. Like
100%.
You consistently go to these different, whether she be at the gym, whether if you like video games, she's playing a video game all the time. I think one of the requirements, and this is just what I've seen in successful relationships, one of the requirements that I would like to have for my relationship is to do at least 1 to 2 activities with my girl.
100%.
Like whether it be we do it every weekend, or I know that she likes working out, or I know there's like certain things that we like to do together. There has to be 1 or 2 events that we like to do every single day that we just consider ours, that will help bolster the relationship. Because not only, let's just say it's playing basketball. She really likes to play basketball. Not only will you be working out, keeping a healthy lifestyle, you will start to understand how she thinks. So if she really...
That's the most important, bro. Most important part.
That's when you can tell if she's really about teamwork. What role does she play like within her different groups? Like whether she be like the head lead role, or she's more of an executor where you just tell her what needs to be done and she gonna get it done. So I think it's very telling when you have different activities with your significant other to where you're able to learn more about them.
Man, and it's super important you say that, because we were talking about this a little bit last time, Xavier, but studying your partner is required in a successful relationship. This whole, I'm not going to give her attention because all this other stuff, it's cool because you're trying to inspire attraction, but at some point you're going to need to know your woman inside and out, like regardless. And so I think that's an incredibly important part, Xavier, doing 1 or 2 or even 3 or 4 activities per week, because you're going to be able to really know how she operates under stress, how she operates when she's happy, how she operates when, there are pressures on. So those are the type of things that you definitely need to know about your partner, because then you'll be able to set them up for success rather than setting them up for failure when you don't even know it. And to piggyback off that statement, one thing that I like to do, and Xavier, I think you get kind of mad at this sometimes, but I like to connect my friends to my other friends. I like to actively help them network with my friends. And I think it's worked well so far, but there's some hiccups here and there where people's personalities don't mesh.
Right.
But I think for the most part, when like Xavier brought me to one of his book clubs, and I was able to network with his friends and become cool with them. I brought Dion to the housewarming, and Xavier was able to, Xavier didn't, but we went to Dallas, and Xavier was able to meet Dion, pulled up to Austin, exactly. And this has happened so many times. Like Xavier has a lot of track people just for me, but we're not going to get into all that. But I think actively being that friend that helps your other friends network with other friends is extremely beneficial and just helps build your network as a whole. And if your friends are helping you do that same thing, in 5-10 years, you're gonna have a huge circle of friends that you don't even know how you met them. You just know them.
Bro, and you just brought up an important idea that I want to talk about. I even forgot that I want to talk about this, but it's this whole idea about lateral networking. Yeah. So basically, networking with people that are your age, pretty much in your same lane now, to build a team to which eventually becomes like what we see now with Rockefeller Records, with Spring Hill Academy, with LeBron's production company. Like, it's funny to say, but like me and Rashad will eventually become the Joe Buttons to other people, like the kings of podcasting, because we're able to create the uncomfortability of trying a new venture and then looking very successful at it. And so what we're trying to do, and I told myself this when I was working for UPS, is the key to life is essentially growing an empire with the friends around you. Like you want to, like when everybody was like, "Ooh, I really want to go to the Rockefeller brunch." Like you gotta have friends around you that are always doing something and that are willing to help other friends.
So exactly, bro. Exactly.
We are really
that's a whole bro. Because okay. So go deeper into this, Xavier. When you're building these types of brands, building business and networking with a whole bunch of people, what do you think? And this is going to change from person to person, but what do you think the best way to actually talk to people is? Communicate. How do you strategize how you communicate with people? Because in my head, you can't communicate with everyone the same way.
Yeah. Well, I will say one thing I've learned about myself is that I am a introverted extrovert, which basically means that I default to being an extrovert. Like I'll talk to people, but at the same time, I need my alone time. I say that to say my communication style when I go for people is not very much because I used to be like this person, but how you doing? Hey, like what are you doing today? Like I was very outgoing, gregarious, like would approach people. But as I got older, I'm a little bit to myself. So how I communicate is I try to find settings, small settings and intimate settings to where you can actually have a conversation. You can't have a conversation when it's at like a huge conference.
Yeah.
And then I think the most important lesson when networking or just being in a relationship is the listening part. I feel like most times we're thinking about the next thing we want to say or what we want to tell them or how the story that they're telling us, we also have a story to top that story. Like rather than doing that, more so listening to that person, like, all right, let me see what this person is passionate about. And then sometimes
say that shit one more time because they didn't get it. Say it one more time.
Bro, it's important to always listen. You need to listen to whether it be your partner, the other person you're talking to. You need to listen and not listen to response, but listen to interpret what they're saying and give them it's important.
It's actually crazy important. I'm not gonna. I know you got a point, but I want to just harp on this. Like, people always ask me, "What do you say?" Like, what do you say when you walk up to a woman or you walk up in a networking event? You don't need to have any script. You just need to listen to what they say and respond to it. Yeah. And if they don't give you anything to respond to, they don't want to talk. And that's
it. It's pretty simple like that. Like
that's it.
And that's why it's so important to listen to people. And this is one thing I like about Rashad because Dion was talking about how we like pretty much Shaq and Kobe when it comes to like just talking and like the conversation. But I think we at the most extreme end, we know what pisses people off. So sometimes Rashad will like ask a very controversial or thought-provoking question, knowing that
is on everyone's mind. First off,
knowing that this girl is about to go in on a whole tangent, and all he needs to do is listen to a couple of things that she said in that story. One, he already learned probably a couple of things just from the story that she's told. And two, he now knows what to respond with. Not trying to Yeah. He's not trying to put her in a box and be like, oh, like when we respond to this, it's like, how can I take this girl individually and from her individual story, give her a response that feels like, and sometimes we're not listening. Sometimes, honestly,
a lot of times we're not listening, to be completely frank.
Sometimes we're not listening.
Completely frank. Because women can go off on tangents for 10, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then, but the most important part is you don't have to really listen to all of it. Just listen to a part that interests you and comment on that. It's simple. It's literally so simple. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I want to. What'd you say?
Yeah, no. I was just gonna say we just make it complicated and more complicated than what it actually is.
A lot of people they just don't want to talk to you, and so you're trying to figure out how you get people that don't want to talk to you to want to talk to you, and that's pretty much impossible.
A word.
So you should stay away from that. You should definitely stay away from that. But one thing I've learned about when communicating with women is that a lot of times they're more nervous than you are to talk. Because think about it, you're walking down the street and a random man just comes up and tries to talk to you. Like, as a woman, knowing that you're 9 times out of 10 not as strong as him, just having someone come up to you and talk to you is going to put you on edge, and your immediate default answer is no, let me just continue doing what I was doing so I don't get it, so I'm not in any danger. And so, you know, things like sexual assault and, kidnapping and all this other stuff, that stuff actually happens. And so that's going to be going on in the back of women's heads. We all have seen the shows and watched the movies. So any man that just randomly approaches them is going to put them on edge. So you shouldn't take it personal that a woman doesn't really want to talk to you, because it could have nothing to do with you as a person. Mm-hmm. It's just her situation right now. She does not feel like talking. And so that's one thing that men have to get in their heads when they're talking to women. Like, you can't just you can approach a woman and be confident or whatever, but you have to also be respectful of the fact that she's not entirely sure of this encounter. And if you walk up as if like she owes you a conversation, she doesn't.
Right. So it's a lot to take into account. I feel like today's dating age is really confusing me, to be honest with you. With the games we play, I'm at a loss for words. So
what kind of games do we play?
You said what kind of games? Olympics. The whole texting Olympics, where I have to like wait 2 hours or wait 30 minutes to act like I'm busy to respond to you. Like, that shit is annoying.
It's so fucking annoying.
Like I gotta act like you gotta tell me that she's not talking about dudes when I'm just like I know the game.
Why do girls say that when we know for a fact you got at least 3 or 4 other dudes that you're texting right now?
Bro. And now it's gotten to a point where I have to ask the question, like, are there any dudes out there that are in love with you that are still talking to you right now? Because if I ask them, oh, are you talking to other dudes? I already know the answer is yes. But they'll be like, no, I'm not talking to anybody. Like, it's been 6 months.
And then months later, you find out they're still fucking with their ex. You're like,
bro, where did this come from? But it's gotten to a point now, but when you have the knowledge, you like, anything she say, I have to take it as face value.
Bro.
This is her truth that she has convinced herself of right now. But don't be surprised when it switches up. And we know better than anybody that the switch up will come, bro.
The switch up.
The
bait and switch. The classic bait and switch. And you know what? It's crazy you say that, because like, and this is the plight. This is the plight of women. I'm gonna explain the plight of women. They tend to be more emotional thinkers than men on the balance of probabilities. And so and this is just like the way of the superior man, when they're not feeling a certain way on the inside at that moment, they tend to make a lot of blanket statements in that emotional state.
Slight exaggerations.
Right. Mm-hmm. But if you were to give them a hug, take them out to eat, take them on a walk, or they just, have a conversation with their friends and they enjoyed it, literally 30 minutes later, they could be feeling incredibly jovial, and their entire thought process will have changed. But for a man, our emotional states are, for the large part, just very consistent.
Yeah.
So if she says, yes, I want to go on this date at this time, she might have been like, man, I'm really feeling him. I'm not talking to my other guys. I really want to go on this date. Then when the time comes to go on the date, she might have had a bad day. She might have, somebody else in her DMs hit her up, something, some this, that, and the third. And she might not be feeling away. So what it looks like is, oh, she was playing me the whole time. She never wanted to go on the date. But no, she wanted to go on the date in the past, but just today, she doesn't want to go anymore. So she's not going to go. But what she's going to do is hit you up in 3 or 4 days and say, so when are we going on a date? And that's when it looks like it's games. Because it essentially is to men, because we don't really change our mind like that. But for women, since they feel so differently every day, they don't even feel like they're changing their mind. They're just like, why is he reacting like this?
And see, like that's a perfect explanation of it. I think the most important thing to differentiate like playing games versus like dating is that open communication that you have with like the person. Like it's gotten to a point like, well, this is how I always felt about dating. I know that you're gonna be talking to other dudes. I'm gonna be talking to other women, but like let's just be open and honest about like what's going on. Like don't tell me that you can't go somewhere because of some random, excuse that you gave me. When you really talking to another dude, like if you
we're grown,
I'm going on another date, like I'm cool. All right, for sure. Like keep it moving,
bruh.
It's the game.
It's just like it's the game.
And to your example, if you're gonna do that, because I think it's totally valid. Like there are some times where somebody might invite me out, then the date of comes, and I'm like, I'm not feeling it. I don't feel like going. Like, but text me. Like, I'm not really feeling it today.
Don't just not text me the whole day when we had a date scheduled for the day. That shit is stupid. Women grow up.
Grow up, bro. Grow up. That's my biggest thing is just grow up. We are 25 years old. This is some high school shit that we used to do.
Some high school shit.
But we are 25 plus years old, bro. Grow up.
If I would never do that to Xavier. And I have flaked on Xavier before, but I told him literally, I am not going to be able to make it because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
I try to make it a point to do that because I done got flaked on so many times. And yes, everybody gets flaked on, man. This is not something that's synonymous to just you. It's 100% of men get flaked on. The ones that are 6 foot, making 6 figures with 6-inch whatever, they're getting flaked on just as much as you who lives with your mama.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe a little bit less.
Everybody's getting flaked on. And everybody's getting flaked on. Learn from listening to Drake lyrics, like he showed me that Drake can be Drake and still get flaked on.
Like, yeah, bro. So there's no winning. So that brings me to the next point, Xavier. How do you win the game?
How do you win the game? I think Rashad, you are better to speak on this. How do you win the game?
Okay, so my immediate answer, which is the only answer if you think about it, is to not play that bitch. And this is what it means to not play it. It doesn't mean, oh, don't text her, don't do this, don't do that. Yeah. You have to be aware that there is a game. You just have to actively take steps to not play it.
Yep.
And once you do that, first you got to learn the rules to the game, which we'll explain in another podcast because that's going to take the entire podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
When we explain the rules to the game, then you can figure out how not to play it. But just going back to a quick example of what Xavier was talking about when, she's either got other dudes or taking forever to text you back. What you do is you say to yourself, her interest is not high enough for me. So I can do 2 things. I can either stop talking to her completely or raise her interest. It just happens to be that a lot of times you not talking to her is raising her interest at the same time.
Yeah.
And if you don't talk to her and it doesn't raise her interest, that means she was never really interested in you.
Come on now. Come on.
And so that's what I mean by not playing the game. It's like, okay, if she's going to do this and do that, and you don't want to accept that as behavior in your relationship, you just simply remove yourself. And if she likes you, she'll get with the program. If she doesn't, then you've literally not wasted any time. You saved
that's the hindrance. That's the hindrance, bro. That's the biggest part that people overlook and have to cope with. And this is for men and women, is the fact that you have to be okay with that person not wanting you.
Man,
like, I can't tell you how many girlfriends or guy friends that I've had that come to me, tell me about a guy or girl they're talking to, and come back with the same guy or girl for the next, 4 or 5 months. And I'm like, bro, the simple answer that I gave you on day one is still the answer 6 months later. She doesn't want you, but you give her enough attention that she is not receiving from her other dudes to where she is okay continually texting you and continually entertaining you. It's as simple as that. For the girls, if he don't mess with you and he's not prioritizing you, it's simple. He doesn't like you.
He doesn't like you. And let me just go in for the girls. I know the girls listen to this. I know they want to know.
Yeah.
And this isn't going to be pertaining to all women or all men. This is just the balance of probabilities, what I've seen. So women tend to complain a lot about men. And what I found is, one, they love to complain. So it's really not even a negative at this point. And two, they all seem to be dating the same man. What is he? Toxic. He's manipulative. He's all of these words that they don't even know what they mean. They just like to say it because they see it on TikTok and social media. He's all these things. But they never, I'm a harsh dude. I'm blunt. They never seem to ask themselves, okay, why are you dating the same man? Maybe it's because you're the exact same and you're attracting the quote unquote toxic manipulative. I think what it is a lot of women and men are nowhere near perfect. They be on some complete BS a lot of times.
Yeah.
But a lot of women, they are so toxic manipulative, they've convinced themselves that they're not, and they've manipulated the situation to where the man has to act like that now. And they don't even realize it, and they just go on social media and complain.
Bro.
And
bro.
Because when you start to tell them about themselves,
every single time,
it's literally the same story. When you start to tell them about themselves, bro, they just be like, "Damn, I didn't even realize that."
Yeah, but there's a common denominator. You need to reevaluate. And this is for men and women. You just need to reevaluate your situations and your past relationships and ask yourself: are they all ending the same way, or have they each ended in a different way? That's why I had to ask myself, am I doing this self-inflicting pain myself? Am I dating the same emotionally unavailable women like back to back to back? Or is it that it's disguised differently every single time? And so, but once you're able to see like, all right, I know I got some flaws when it comes to dating. A couple of nights ago, where they like this one type of dude, and then we tell them to get another type of dude. And it's just like, bro.
Xavier, that's a beautiful point that you just brought up. I was going to say the same, like a similar thing. Like what men need to start doing, and women too, women is a little harder for them, but what men need to start doing in their 20s, they need to date, I don't want to say multiple women, not at the same time, but they need to date different types of women, because a man will get into a situation where he's dating the same type of woman and going through the same thing. Like, what people need to do is reflect on their relationships. What went wrong? What didn't go wrong? Yeah. Even write them down. Yeah. And then go choose a woman that doesn't reflect those negative qualities that you just left. Yeah. Literally do that. If you're dating let's just say she's I'm not even gonna describe, but if you're dating a woman that you deem to be someone that you can't connect with, just don't date that type of woman. You're going to get horny for that woman though. That's really the plight. So you're gonna have to change your neurological system to where you might have to just take a break for a couple months and then come back and then say, okay, I want to date this type of woman now. For women, y'all need to do the exact same thing, but I think it's a little bit harder because you can't just date around. It's not, you guys are not men. There's like a difference there. So what you need to do is go get advice from people you trust, whether it be your father. I think that's the best one. If you don't have a good father figure, then I hope you have a good network of male friends that can kind of steer you the right direction.
Or us. You can hit
us. Exactly. You can hit us up anytime. We may not respond, but we probably will. So I think you need to go get advice of what type of men you should date, because the guys that y'all are choosing, the top 1% of men, they're not working out for you because they're dating all the women, and y'all are all complaining about the same man.
The same dude.
That's why when women complain, like, it's honestly disingenuous to me, because y'all are completely negating all the average dudes, all the bottom 90% dudes, and you're only talking about this small subset of dudes and saying this is all men, and it's 10% of men. And you're just like, how many, you're talking about NFL, NBA guys, and you're complaining about them, but how many people are realistically in the NBA compared to the American population?
But they get comfortable. People get comfortable with familiarity. When you're messing with the same type of girl or guy, like, once you see that pattern again and again, you kind of get used to it. And then you kind of, the worst thing that can happen is you being okay. It's just like, okay, well, he, I know he's like having sex with other girls, but I'm okay with it. And it's just like, girl, have some respect for yourself.
It's like, have some respect for yourself, but it's also like, why do you feel the need to have to be with this guy? Like, and I know it's social media and what you guys see. Y'all want a certain lifestyle, so you tend to go to the men that can provide that.
Right.
But when did it get to the point where if I make $50,000 a year as an average man, I'm now deemed broke? When that is completely not even true,
bro. The bar is so high, it's ridiculous.
It's so high that people don't even want to compete, i.e. me. Like, for me, like, I know I could get a woman and I'm making enough money to do it, but it's like women do zero work, but expect you to come fitted and with money. And it's just like,
with everything,
what have you done to deserve my money that I worked hard for, put in hours of work for?
It's entitled culture, bro. It's the millennials. I blame social media.
I blame social media too, but I mean, it has done some positives. So, Xavier, these are a lot of questions on here that we didn't get to. Is there anything else?
No. I think we covered each one of them like pretty holistically.
Yeah,
but I kind of want to your final thoughts on friendships, relationships, and like recommendations going forward.
Yeah, so my final thoughts. Yeah, I'll go ahead and knock that out. So for both, this is going to be pertaining to both men and women. And if you want something more individualized, you'll text me or hit me up. So for men and women, I think that you should figure out what your hobbies are by meditating and figuring out who you are as a person. That's going to tackle your loneliness problem, because when you actually do those hobbies, then you're going to be able to start having fun and enjoying your life versus just waiting till, some other period of your life comes. So, meditating, living in the present, finding hobbies, being consistent at your hobbies, and then when you communicate with other people, actually listening to what they say. That's going to be the most important part. And when you do all those three things, the friendships and the networking will come as a byproduct. You won't have to try. It might not be exactly when you want it to, like it might not be the first time, but 6, 7, 8 months down the line, you're going to figure out who fucks with you, who doesn't. And you're going to gravitate towards those people. In terms of relationships, I think that you should write down kind of your pros and cons to your last relationships or your last couple of relationships, and kind of highlight the pros and highlight the cons, and choose people based on those pros and cons. Like, say, okay, if you had a woman that you didn't like the way that she handled arguments, she was a little bit too emotional, she yelled a little bit too much, actively go and choose a woman who doesn't do that. She might not look the exact same, but actively go choose a woman who doesn't do that, and then see if that works out. If that doesn't work out because of XYZ, then you write that down, and for the next time, then you choose a woman who doesn't do that, who doesn't do both things. And so now you're kind of getting more and more quote unquote picky, but you're finding people who are better suited towards you as a person, which will increase your relationship success.
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to appreciate y'all for coming out for this next edition of Two Black Kings podcast.
Yes, sir. Oh, also, this is the Two Black Kings shirt. Let me know if you want one of these.
That's hard.
Yeah. It just says 2 Black Kings on it. We're gonna start doing some sales here pretty soon once we get following up a little bit. But yeah, this is coming soon, so be on the lookout for that. Peace, guys.